In today's video, we're going to continue our 2018 NHL Prospect Report series, where we're covering all 31 NHL teams, doing a deep dive analysis on their complete prospect pools, including their full 2018 NHL draft selections. For today's video, I have a special guest joining me, and we're talking about the Boston Bruins. And that's coming up next. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. We review and discuss all 31 NHL teams, so if you're a huge hockey fan, consider subscribing and clicking the bell so you don't miss anything. So as I mentioned off the top, today we're talking about the Boston Bruins top prospects. Now I have a special guest joining me today, so we're going to continue with the same format we've had when we've had other guests on discussing prospects. We're covering the top 6 Bruins prospects in their organization, and we're going to rotate back and forth, taking turns discussing each one. Now joining me today, we've got BNG Hockey. Obviously, he's a great YouTube channel covering the Boston Bruins, so I certainly highly recommend you go check out his channel and consider subscribing. There will be a link down below in the description to his channel, so upon completion of this video, please go check him out. So now to get us started here, I'm going to hand it over to BNG Hockey, and he's going to get started here with our number 6 rated prospect.
Hey there, Bruins fans. It's Dylan from BNG Hockey, where it's always black and gold. Want to send out a huge thank you to Mike for having me here on his channel. Now let's get it started with number 6 on our list, Jakob Borel. Borel is a 21-year-old left-shot defenseman who was selected 13th overall in the first round of the 2015 NHL entry draft. Now some of you might remember this as the Connor McDavid draft, but if you're a Bruins fan, you remember it as a pretty painful first draft for Don Sweeney and the Boston Bruins. He tried to trade up for Noah Hanifin by getting a collection of first-round draft picks and ended up keeping all 3. This turned into Borel, Jake DeBrusk, and Senyshyn at 13, 14, and 15. Now, some of you might say 3 first-round draft picks, that doesn't sound too bad. It's not until you look at the players who were available after these 3 were selected. Forwards like Matthew Barzal, Brock Besser, and Kyle Connor. And at defense, Thomas Chabot, who's already become an elite defenseman at an NHL level for Ottawa. Now, this puts a lot of pressure on Jakob Borel, who has yet to make it to the NHL level when most of his draft class already has. Now, let's talk about his skills. He's a solid two-way defenseman and is a pretty good skater, which means he can help you at both ends of the ice, whether it's joining the rush offensively or making sure he gets back defensively. He's also 6 feet, 200 pounds, so he's not afraid to throw the body a little bit. In 2016-17 with the St. John Sea Dogs, he played 50 games, got 9 goals, 32 assists for a total of 41 points. And in 2017-18, he played a full season with the Providence Bruins, playing 68 games, getting 4 goals, 15 assists for a total of 19 points. Now, you look at Borel and you say it's pretty hard for him to crack that left side of the Boston Bruins defense, which already has John Moore, Torrey Krug, Zdeno Chara, Matt Grzelcyk. So when is he going to step in? Well, it could be this year, as a depth piece, or maybe he outworks some of the veteran players. Or you look just one more year further when you think Zdeno Chara might be done by that point, and this is a great guy to step into his role. Now, I'm not saying he's the next Zdeno Chara, but he can definitely keep the name Big Z.
Next up, we've got Eeli Vatanen, left-shot defenseman who was a 2017 first-round selection out of Finland. He's 6'1", about 185 to 190 pounds, so he's got a pretty solid NHL-ready frame. Upon being drafted, he did decide to play another year over in Finland, but he is expected to make the jump over to North America this year, and he'll likely spend the 17-18 season playing at the American Hockey League level. Vatanen's a very smart, smooth-skating, stay-at-home type defenseman. This past year playing over in Finland, he certainly worked hard to improve his game, not only on the defensive side, but on the offensive side as well. He's not overly known for being a flashy type guy or putting up a lot of points, but he's certainly worked hard to be able to produce more on the offensive side of the game, while certainly managing to improve his defensive play as well. The strongest points about Vatanen is he's a terrific skater. He really has great vision. He's a great passer out there for sure. A very smart type hockey player. Like I said, he's the type of guy who you can rely on to be that stay-at-home type defenseman. Hopefully at the NHL level one day he can be able to play like a shutdown type of role for the Boston Bruins. As I mentioned, he's more than likely playing at the American Hockey League level this year, and I still see him being 1 to 2 seasons away from cracking the NHL lineup.
Number 4 on our list is 21-year-old right shot center Jakob Borel, who was selected 45th overall in the second round of the 2015 NHL entry draft. In 2016-17 with the Boston University Terriers, Borel played 39 games, putting up 14 goals, 19 assists for a total of 33 points. Last season he played one game with the Boston Bruins, and I was at that game, and I specifically remember him because his name took up almost the entire jersey. Now, he logged 8 minutes and 25 seconds of time on ice, and that's about it for his NHL debut. Played on the fourth line mostly and didn't really see any power play time or penalty kill time and just really didn't have an opportunity, so there's no way you can judge him after that one game. Last season with the Providence Bruins, he played in 58 games, scoring 15 goals, 17 assists for a total of 32 points, and in 4 Calder Cup playoff games, he had 1 goal. So what does all of this mean for Borel, and what's his future with the Boston Bruins? In my opinion, I think he can step into the lineup this season. I think he can fill that third-line center role perfectly. He reminds me a lot of a younger David Krejci, how he can make plays out of absolutely nothing. His speed is pretty solid, and I think he can be a nice replacement for the lost Riley Nash. I think he can easily put up the amount of goals that Nash put up, and it makes him a little more exciting on the third line having some younger guys there, instead of some fill-in veterans. Looking way down the line, Borel is your David Krejci replacement. He was an assistant captain at BU, so he can be a leader for the locker room. I think that once David Krejci is ready to move on from either the NHL in general or just the Boston Bruins, Borel will have some nice NHL experience under his belt and become a better player who can fill that second-line center role.
Next up, we get the Bruins' 2016 first-round selection out of the University of Wisconsin, Trent Frederick. Now, Frederick's a pretty good-sized center, 6'2", 200 pounds, because he's a really big, sturdy frame. He can certainly play a power forward type physical game. During Frederick's time at the University of Wisconsin, he was close to being a point-per-game player. Certainly showed all kinds of offensive skills for sure, which is what led him to be drafted in the first round. When Frederick was drafted in the first round by the Boston Bruins, it certainly was a little bit of a surprise to many. Obviously, he was expected to be a fairly high draft pick, but more people had him pegged as probably being more like a second-round selection. But the Bruins have taken a chance here, and so far he's developed rather well. Frederick had a chance to make his pro debut last year, getting to 13 games at the American Hockey League level, scoring 5 goals, adding 3 assists for 8 points, so certainly not a bad way to make your pro debut at the American Hockey League level. I certainly expect that to continue as he can get his first full pro season under his belt here. Trent Frederick is a tremendous stick handler, has a great shot as well. I did read a quote when he was younger that he modeled his game after David Backes. Backes was a player he really looked up to and really admired, so obviously having Backes in your organization hopefully will be a good influence on him as he can continue to work towards becoming a regular NHL player. So Frederick's a big forward who plays hard. He can certainly play a pretty responsible two-way game. I do expect when he makes the NHL, he's a player that you could just certainly use on the penalty kill as well. So I do think he'll get a lot of ice time through special teams. Even though I do suspect Frederick to spend the bulk of the year at the American Hockey League level, I do think it's quite a possibility here that he does at least get some game action with the Bruins this season. He's certainly a pretty reliable call-up option, depending on their injury situation during the year for sure. So I do think by next year, Trent Frederick likely will become an NHL regular, provided that he has good development and continues to develop his game here during his first pro season.
Number 2 on our list, fans might be a little more familiar with. It's 22-year-old left shot winger Anders Bjork. Selected in the 5th round, 146th overall in the 2014 NHL entry draft. Bjork is going to prove to be an absolute steal for the Boston Bruins. In 2016-17, as an assistant captain with Notre Dame, Anders Bjork put up 21 goals, 31 assists for 52 points in only 39 games. Those fantastic point totals are exactly why he was able to step into the lineup last season, where he jumped right up to the first line to play on the right side of star forwards Patrice Bergeron and Brad Marchand. Sadly, Anders Bjork's first season was cut short. In a game against the Ducks, he took a cross-check from Francois Beauchemin, which required him to get season-ending shoulder surgery. Looking at this summer, Anders Bjork was able to take some time to recover, and it looks like he's going to be able to participate in a prospect tournament coming up that involves 4 teams: the Boston Bruins, the Pittsburgh Penguins, the New Jersey Devils, and the Buffalo Sabres. These prospects from all 4 teams participate in a round-robin tournament. Now, you might think this might be a cakewalk for Anders Bjork, who has probably the most NHL experience out of anyone at that tournament. But you're forgetting that he's going to be going up against players like Rasmus Dahlin and some other really talented players from some pretty deep organizations. So this will be a great opportunity for Anders Bjork to be able to get that next level of competition right before main camp. Looking at the future for Anders Bjork, he looks like a pretty much guaranteed lock to make the roster this season. Showed some chemistry with Patrice Bergeron and Brad Marchand, even though arguably the best line in hockey is Bergeron, Marchand, and Pasternak. As we saw in the Tampa Bay series, if you're shutting down the other lines, it can be pretty hard to just get offense from one line. If Bjork can step up on the right side of Bergeron and Marchand, Pasternak can play with Krejci and DeBrusk. That gives you two elite scoring lines. The other good thing about Anders Bjork is that he can play both the right side and the left side. Just in case of injuries, he can step over to that left side really easily. I think he's going to put up some solid numbers this season. Hopefully he can be healthy and be a nice piece for the Boston Bruins going on in the future.
Now last but certainly not least here, we've got Ryan Donato. Now Donato was originally drafted back in 2014, number 56 overall. Obviously made his NHL debut after ending his collegiate career at Harvard University last season. Got off to a fantastic start in the NHL and certainly was a big help to the Bruins down the home stretch to close out the regular season. He ended up getting into 12 games where he put up 5 goals and 4 assists for 9 points, and he was very fun to watch. Certainly an electric player. You could tell Donato has a natural goal-scoring ability for sure, and I do expect that to continue to develop at the NHL level. Donato certainly appears to have top 6 capabilities to play like a second-line scoring winger type role. I do see Donato, probably being a 25 to 30 goal man, maybe even more as he continues to grow and develop here at the pro level. Donato also got a chance to play in the Winter Olympics last year since the NHL did not participate in those games before he turned pro. While being a member of Harvard University, he had a chance to go to the Olympics, get into 5 games, scored 5 goals, 1 assist. He was really one of the big bright spots on Team USA and really got himself a lot of attention on an international stage where he looked absolutely fantastic for Team USA. So Ryan Donato is an incredibly smart player. He's got elite hands, elite ability to score. So like I said, I do suspect him to be a top 6 forward for a long time to come and be an elite goal scorer here for a long time for the Boston Bruins. Again, I'd like to take a minute here and thank B&G Hockey very much for coming on and sharing his insights on these Bruins prospects. It's greatly appreciated. Again, if you're not familiar with his channel, I highly recommend you go down and click the link in the description, check out his channel, consider subscribing. As we approach the new 18-19 here NHL season, he can be a great resource for you to keep up with all things Bruins for sure. So next up, I want to cover all the 2018 NHL draft selections and see what else the Bruins ended up selecting here that could be coming down the pipe in the coming years. So now I'm going to put up a graphic here full screen where we're going to show you the full summary of the selections and we'll go through them here one by one. Now the Bruins had traded their first round selection to the New York Rangers as part of the Rick Nash trade at the NHL trade deadline. So their first selection was in the second round, number 57 overall. They selected a Swedish defenseman, Axel Andersson. In the third round, number 77 overall, they took a center out of the Czech Republic, Jakob Borel. In the fourth round, number 119 overall, they took a center iceman from the USHL, Curtis Hall. Now, they also did not have a fifth round selection, which was traded as well. So their next selection was in round number 6, number 181 overall. They took a defenseman from the Pickering Panthers, OJHL, Dustin McFall. And last but not least here, out of the KHL, center iceman, number 212 overall, they selected Pavel Shen. So there you have it. There's the full summary of the 2018 NHL draft selections. Obviously, the Bruins were a little bit low on picks this year because of some of the trades they made. Obviously, in years past, they were certainly well stocked on first round selections. So obviously, they were a little short this year. So hopefully, they can make up for that here in the coming years to kind of restock the prospect cupboard as a lot of these guys make it to the NHL. If you're new to the channel here, I hope you consider subscribing. We cover all 31 NHL teams, and there is plenty of content here for all hockey fans to enjoy. So if you're new, hit that subscribe button. If you like this video, make sure you hit the like button as well. I'd really appreciate it if you did. As always, thank you very much for watching, everybody. We will catch you next time.